Yeah, full class now. You know, like we need, like, somebody to steal away. Oh, my God.
We're ready. All right, let's do this thing. Hello, everybody. Tight class full of love. I do believe we are underway. This brings our Why Presbyterians Are Like That class to an end. This is the grand finale. So let us have a robust and enjoyable conversation today. I think that I must have, oh, no, housekeeping, there it is. Housekeeping, there it is, perfect. Let us go through some housekeeping concerns. Hello, Diane. A few housekeeping things to begin with. One, for those of you who have been traveling around this table since I do believe we started in January. I don't remember which class it was way back in the day. I had talked about how I had made reference to how the Presbyterian Church is like the Schlotsky's of faith traditions, right? You know Schlotsky's motto, right? Anybody remember Schlotsky's motto? Funny name, serious sandwich, right? The Presbyterians, funny name, serious faith. Well, I have made a sticker. And I made one for anyone who would like one. These are the high vinyl ones that you can put through the dishwasher. So funny name, serious faith. And so I'll pass them around if you would like one.
Water bottle, babe.
Yeah, you put them on a water bottle. These just came in this week. I'm super excited about it. And so I'm pretty jazzed. So yeah, like I said, you put a water bottle, look, they go well. Like if you got one of these here Yetis, look at that, boom.
Yeah.
See how beautiful and wonderful those are. Look, if you got a phone, you can even put it. Oh, it's just a little too wide for a phone. And let's try it sideways. Look at that, huh? You'll be the envy of the seminary.
Where'd you get that one?
And you can say, my pastor.
Awesome.
My pastor.
Your pastor.
Because you know, oh, did we run? No.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, believe me, I have more. Yes, I do. That's housekeeping number one. Housekeeping number two is, I also said last week that I would be announcing the summer lineup for what we're going to do this summer, June, July, and August. And one of our tiny little background history of what we have been trying to focus on at our church. It was the January of 2020 was the year that we fully launched into our Matthew 25 initiative, becoming a Matthew 25 church. We, I believe, started the path towards it maybe the fall of 2018. So we maybe spent it from the fall of 2018 all the way into late 2019, studying, prepping, researching, visioning, designing, aligning, preparing ourselves to fully launch into Matthew 25. January of Matthew 25 Church, January of 2020, we fully launched into becoming a Matthew 25 church and all that it means. Three main core structures, which is build congregational vitality, to eradicate systemic poverty, to work towards eradicating systemic poverty, and to work towards dismantling structural racism, both in our missional outreaches, but also in our Christian education and in our worship and preaching life. And so it has been intentional for us through Christian education, through our design, in which we look at over the course of years, how is it when we plan our Christian education that we are intentionally trying to address those topics through the courses and that we do. So are we selecting courses that are in alignment with those, not to mention also the 6 righteous acts of Jesus, right? Clothe the naked, feed the hungry, give water to the thirsty, etc. And so there are several classes, there are several topics that we have specifically said will be in a regular rotation. So we have had one course, one topic that has been a regular rotation, which is related to racism. And another topic that has been in a cyclical rotation has been focused on issues of LGBTQIA concern. And in our Christian ed cyclical rotation, this summer would be the summer that would be time for us to return exploring issues related to LGBTQIA plus concerns. Therefore, you guys are first to hear and know that here is the class that we will be leading. I will be leading at 11:30, June through August. This fresh off the press. You guys are getting the hot off the press issues, the first crack at it. I will obviously unpack so much more about this when June 2nd comes around. And so I'm not going to belabor this right now, but you can read for yourself. But the title of the course is Divide All, Striving for a Community of LGBTQIA plus Inclusivity. And every bit of the word, the title of the class has been chosen intentionally and by design. But the specific word that is the key word that grounds the entire summer and has grounded the entire movement of Hope Presbyterian Church from when we began the process, when we wrote our document and published our document. One of the key words of value for our congregation, our spiritual leaders, was strive. We will strive. And that indicates that we acknowledge that we have not arrived somewhere, that we are always still in a place of growth. And that's that second line of our mission statement, grow in faith. And so this idea is that we will strive. That means that we are positioning ourselves to always keep growing. And so how is it that we take time to know how is it that we can strive, that we can continue to make intentional steps forward, whether there are those of us who have been on this journey a long time, or those of us who will be just getting onto the on-ramp for the very first time. And this will be new information. So there are 3 major movements of the summer. The first movement of the summer will be grounded in the biblical examination, a biblical review. If you're not familiar with this, we're going to do a review of this terminology called clobber passages. You don't have to know what that is right now. We're going to discuss that, but there are a variety of passages that have been wielded from within the Bible to quote unquote clobber those, to hurt those, cause injury to those within the LGBT community. and we're going to go through a resource that's called Unclobber. We're going to use that resource to talk about those specific passages as well as some others. We'll spend several weeks going over those. And then the second movement of the church is beginning to look at the PCUSA and Hope Presbyterian Church. So on the 7th, we're going to take a look at specifically looking at the different letters of LGBTQIA plus and what do those letters mean, and as well as pronouns. I'm talking about some of those, just this information session about what this is. What are some of those things? For some folks, that may be new information. Some of us may know what that means, but we may have questions, and that's what this is going to be about. We'll talk about some of the history of the PCUSA. This is an important backdrop as to how it is that we began navigating, making some of our own decisions. And then we'll look at our own statement on the 21st. On the 28th, Pastor John is going to do a session on how it is that we have recreated our young disciple ministry here at Hope, as well as the ministry that he's the executive director for, which is called Kingdom Community. And then on the 4th, we're going to do what I've always enjoyed doing, which is called the laboratory. And we're going to take a good bit of all that we've been working through from June and July and go into what I like to call is a laboratory and say, how is it that we take all of this and that we're more intentional about how we as a community strive together? How then do we create community? How do we create a culture of inclusivity? What are some of the ways in which we fall short? What are some of the ways in which we've seen other communities? What are in the laboratory? What are some of the things that we can explore? And then finally, on the 11th, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the things that are my hopes for Cedar Park and Leander, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then finally, I just want to draw your attention to on the 18th, the Emergency Preparedness Sunday. There'll be a whole lot more information to come about that on that Sunday. But what I am going to ask the entire church community on that Sunday is during the 11:30 hour, our congregation has never done any kind of emergency preparedness for fire, tornado, of anything. So what I'm going to ask the church to do is after worship to stay behind, those who can and would please do, that we go through a few movements of the church, like if we're in worship and the tornado sirens go off, let us move as a body to where we would go. So then at least a bulk of us would know what to do in the case of a tornado, and then others could follow. And for a fire, where do we meet up, and go through some emergency preparedness that we as a bulk of a community would know where the AEDs are, and et cetera, et cetera. So there'll be more information on that, but we've never done it before. I'm targeting that day as emergency preparedness Sunday. We'll have no class on the 25th, 21st. Rally day will be big kickoff day on the 8th, and Bob Jerome. Questions, comments about the summer CE class? The final thing I want to say, and you'll see that, and I'm happy to email this. You'll see there's hyperlinks in the front page there. I am incredibly guarded and intentional about how I navigate through tough classes. John's sat through this with me before, so has Mercy, so has Gloria, so has Diana, so has Natalie. I'm very guarded and cautious about how I navigate through tough topics. There's a hyperlink in there to a thing called Covenants and Presence. And at the beginning of every class session, the entire summer long, we will read that as a community. The first session of the first class of the summer, we're not only going to read through that, but we're going to unpack what each of those covenants mean and how we live into them and honor them in our conversations for the whole summer. Because we're all going to come from different places. And that's how we're striving for community. Okay. So if you would like a copy of that or this electronically, send me an email. You'll end up getting this somehow, some way, but just let me know what questions you have. And invite a friend, especially if you have someone who is willing to, has questions, wants to know more, and is willing to approach the table in good faith. Okay? I would be so delighted to open this with prayer, and because it's the last day, to assign someone to close this in prayer today. Ooh, is it gonna be? It's gonna be Colton. You know why?
Surprise.
You know why? Huh?
You recording yet?
Yeah, I'm recording. Oh, you know why? Because it's reading when he's about to go to finals. And my Sundays with Colton are coming to a close. He's going away for the summer for good reasons. All right, let's pray. Gracious God, we give you thanks for this day, for the beauty of worship and time spent together at fellowship. We thank you for the people you've gathered around this table, for the discussions that we will have in the hour ahead of us. May your spirit be with us, and may you be glorified. In the name of Christ we pray. Amen. Let's do some introductions. Kitty, hello, salutations. We're going to lead off with you. Your name, and then now I sent everybody this in advance, so there should be no surprises. So I'm telling you, I sent everybody this in advance, right? So and if not, Kitty, it's you first. So and everybody else, it's on your paper, so you should see it. Describe the rest of your life in 5 words.
The rest?
I sent this to you in advance.
Didn't read it.
Hey, I'm just saying, and that's all you get is 5 words.
We had a big storm last night and my computers are not responding this morning. I can't access the email. So could I go last and think about these 5 words?
I mean, sure, I did send it last Tuesday.
I know, but I can't get into my email.
Oh.
Kitty, I love these interactions because I have a feeling that there was a large part of your life when you were receiving these kinds of excuses. I love seeing that dynamic.
Moving on. Here's how it's gonna go. It's the game of Survivor. Whoever goes first, the person to their left goes next. We're gonna go in a circle that way.
I'll go first.
Oh, Caitlin.
You're the worst.
Yeah. Did you not read books and watch TV?
No, you didn't introduce yourself.
Oh, okay. John Seaman, Christian education elder. The way that I will spend the rest of my life after I retire is
You're already given more than 5 words.
I'm introducing
John
my
Seaman.
5 words.
5 words.
You already said the 5 words and you didn't like that. So now.
Read books and watch TV.
Wow. Love it.
Caitlin Hedrick. Pet a lot of dogs.
Awesome. That's really good.
Colton Hedrick. I guess that we'll see.
Preach a lot of sermons.
Roxanne Schmidt, grandmother, live and love always.
I'm Leon. Grandfather, cows, love, travel. So.
You almost made it. That was 6.
Carla. Young. Work. Retire. Serve. Quilt. Grandkids.
Alice's foods, love, joy, and great grandchildren.
I don't have any yet, but I'm.
Diana Peter, make more memories with family.
Santosh. Out of medications. Wisdom. Peace. Prosperity. Love one another.
Drives, exercise, work, travel, healthy food. It's
I'm Gloria. Family, friends, community, exercise, and hobbies. I'm Diane Rogers. Trust God every day forever.
Blessing Goma. Good health, travel, serve, love God. What's that?
Lost count.
I'm Kathy Clements. Love, serve, connect, pray, and peace.
Josh, strong, courageous. These are hyphenated words now. Strong, courageous, here's hyphenated, music filled, creative, and grace filled.
She rolled up 6 3 7.
Strong, courageous, music filled, creative, grace filled.
Okay. We'll accept it. Natalie Day. Retired, read, see the world.
All right, Kitty.
Kitty Kosachata, blessed and grateful for each day.
All right, all right. Anybody, everybody? Fabulous. Well, let's get into a little bit on page 2, at the very top of page 2. I forgot to tell you this. I brought some swag. I have these stored in my office. Anytime you come by, I have buttons and stickers. There's always buttons and stickers. There's some hope buttons, hope stickers, Black Jesus stickers. There's always stuff there if you're ever interested. I think there's a keychain from Hope. There's always stuff there. Did you get a Presbyterianism? Very good. On page 2, I put some important links there for your reference. The PCUSA denomination website. I did talk last week about the 2 different departments, the Office of the General Assembly, which is head up by the stated clerk of the General Assembly. Anybody remember what I said about the stated clerk of the General Assembly?
Charlie would want.
Did I say that?
You did.
Did I? Okay.
It's a good guess.
I believe it. Anybody, okay, other than that, anybody remember something else? The role of the stated clerk, how about that? The role of the stated clerk of the General Assembly. Do you remember anything about that? Yeah, that they could rule on. They could be the one who would rule in a meeting on. Maybe they would make a ruling on the Robert's Rules of Order. They could do that, yes. But when they're not in meeting, what else would the state clerk do?
Oh, they're like the political voice of the nomination.
Right, they're
They write
the
statements. and things.
right. They give witness. They're the witness voice, right? They give witness to the public witness voice on behalf of our denomination.
Who does that?
The stated clerk. of the Office of the General Assembly.
Okay.
And the breaking news in the week of, since we last met, is we have been without a state clerk of our denomination for a year and a half. And the general presbyter of our presbytery has been leading the search committee for that. And they just announced in the last week their recommendation for that person. Did you see who it was? You know,
That's Sally was.
Sally, she's leading the search. Her team has put forth a recommendation, and this will be I think the second female, first Asian American, and I think she's under 45. I think out of Georgia, and
So it's not you.
oh, it's definitely not there. And so there's great excitement about this. This is exciting. Anybody remember what the Presbyterian Mission Agency is? It's baked into the name. Yeah, this is all the muscles of our denomination, right? The next link there, the General Assembly, this is the actual meeting that's going to take place at the end of June. This is that website where the actual meeting
Is
is.
that the meeting that is going to take place here?
No, the meeting here at our church is the Mission Presbytery meeting. This meeting is in Utah, Salt Lake City. The PC Biz web link, that's the portal for where all of the overtures and whatnot is. You can just stay up and follow if you're really going to be bored. Or if you're really enthused by stuff like that, which I am.
If you have trouble sleeping, just look through that website.
If you want to stay awake and you're want to be stimulated like some people, which I'm not gonna lie to you, like, you know, I stayed up like 3 hours of the day just reading General Assembly minutes the other day because I was so stimulated from 2010. There's 3,300 pages of General Assembly minutes for 2010.
The minutes are just a summary.
Yeah. Wow, that's so exciting. Anyway, moving on. And if you really want to get into it, there's an interactive council map, mid-council map there. And that you can fall asleep with. But moving on. So the other document that I sent you, the big, work my way up. I sent you a little handout. If you wanted to, you could take a look at it and have an understanding of all of the committees that are going to be formed for this General Assembly. I did not print this out with you. This was in the hand, attached to the email I sent you. Some of these committees are there every time. Some of them are only formed for that General Assembly. So that PDF of the committees that I sent you are the slate for this coming summer General Assembly. And there's some descriptions about what those different committees are, their focus, and who's leading them up this time. This year is new because all of the committees are going to do their entirety of their work via Zoom. When they finish their work, they'll close out, and that's going to take place of like 4 days over Zoom. Then they'll close out their work, and they're all going to travel on the same day to Salt Lake City. And then they'll start their plenary session together. The 2 times I've gone, when I went as a commissioner, I had 6 days. My committee met for 6 days for about 12 to 14 hours a day for 6 days. There were 45 of us around a table, and it was misery. And those were very long days. I wanted to cry a lot. I was on a special committee, and there was nothing special about it, other than a lot of Kleenexes for wiping your tears. But they just figured that was too expensive, and it does save a lot of money. It's just that much time on Zoom. 1 hour on Zoom equals 3 hours of in-person. It's misery. Anywho, so that's how this is going to go down. Moving on. The big document, our big thing to overview today is if you flip to page 3, that is a bullet point list of that big PDF I sent you of a selection of a variety of overtures that have been sent to the General Assembly. Okay, that have had already at least one concurrence. They've been endorsed by one presbytery and have received one concurrence by another presbytery or more, meaning they're at least going to be on the agenda of one of the committees, which is why they were in the PC Biz, right? Which is why I was able to find them and include them and adopt it. Some of them, as I said last week, are like, oh, well, that makes sense. Some of them, you're like, I have no idea what they're talking about. Some of them are like, oh my, that will be interesting. Let's roll up our sleeves and talk about that one. I'm curious if you read, review, or paid any attention to any of them, and if there are any you would like to talk about today. That's all we're doing. Because there's some interesting ones in there, but I'm gonna let you lead this portion of the conversation.
And I don't know what it is. I'm only going off the title, but the, I guess, letter M. Paul-08 on dissolution of pastoral relationships.
Okay. That's a cool one. I'm bored. Man, I'm gonna say they're all cool. And by when I say they're cool, for those of you who are getting to know me, that doesn't mean I endorse them. It just means that, oh man, they'll be fun to talk about. As in stimulating, as in like, oh, we could really get into this one. The Paul, P-O-L, means for polity. They're in the polity, they're in the polity committee. Polity is like our book of order, receives items recommending constitutional changes to the book of order and the book of confessions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that one on the dissolution of pastoral relationships is recommending that we change our book of order. Oh, this one's a good one. The recommendation is that that we add language to our book of order that says that when a pastoral relationship is dissolved, there shall not be a non-disclosure agreement. That non-disclosure agreements will be prohibited in the PCUSA for pastors. That's the proposal.
So what's it mean? Yes.
Okay, so currently, oh Diana. So here's how it goes down.
I'd love to know what happened.
Yeah.
You never read about this one, but no.
You don't want to read it.
No.
You don't want to get
Don't
into
read
it.
it.
You could though, because I gave information to everybody.
Paul Booker's coming tomorrow to like basically do this, so I'm gonna get two helpings of this.
I'm sure you will. Is that yours?
He doesn't. Okay.
So, all right, I'm gonna give you the idea. Pastor Josh, he violates, you know, he calls Diana a cotton-headed nanny muggins. And you don't have to tell everybody. This
It's in the minutes of the personnel.
shut it, you. This is in secret. I'm being metaphorical here. You know, not metaphorical. I'm making something up here. I call Diana a cotton-headed nanny muggins. And she brings up charges against me, and the personnel committee brings it to the session. The session says, we find you in violation of conduct on becoming a pastor, and we want to fire you. And I say, well, dang, I'm going to sue you for trying to fire me because I'm just expressing my First Amendment rights. And it could get, I'm just stating the truth. She really is a cotton-headed nitty muggers, and they can get ugly, this, that, and the other. And in best interest for both of us is for us just to part ways. Me from Hope and Hope from me, right? So we come up with a severance agreement, and Diane represents the personnel committee. And so the section of Hope says, you know what we're going to do? We're going to let you go via condeals, Joshua. We're going to say, here, what? There's $5,000 and a non-disclosure agreement. You just take $5,000, you sign right here, and if you ever say anything about Hope Presbyterian Church, then gloves are off, we're coming for you, and vice versa, right? And I say, if you ever malign my name, then I'm coming for you, Hope Presbyterian Church, and I'll take you for every penny you're worth. I'll bring you down, right? So what this is saying is that that when a pastor leaves, that a church and that a pastor cannot sign, and a church cannot, and the church and a pastor, when they dissolve that relationship, it will be prohibitive that they cannot enter into a non-disclosure agreement. And I currently have a colleague who just this year left a church in a non-disclosure agreement and lives every day that church is going to come and left that church in fear. And as that pastor walked out of that church, that was the parting words of that church was, I quote, if we ever hear you utter our church name ever again, we will take you for everything you're worth, and you will never serve a day in your life. And that's the reason why this pastor wanted to get out of this church to begin with. This was a horrible situation. And they didn't want their church to be maligned and for the whistle to be blown about how horrible the state of that church was. And so this pastor just needed to get the heck out of Dodge as soon as possible. That church didn't want the presbytery or the governing body to know what was going on. And so they said, we're going to give you this. Here's an NDA, get out. And this is saying no more transparency, full disclosure. We're not going to have a culture where we're going to have secrecy and bury bones in the closet anymore. Does that make sense? And this is also how we allow nefariousness and operators of ill intent to go work in other places. And it is so unhealthy. It is so unhealthy for congregations who are bad operators and for pastors who are bad operators. So personally, we fully support this. There's no room. And listen, in the Presbyterian Church, there is no room for this ever. Not in our theology, not in the way in which we operate. Ever is there room for this NDA junk. However, this is not exclusive to Presbyterianism. This movement is becoming a big focal point of conversation in mega churches. Mega churches operate in the land of NDAs. And this is becoming a massive point of conversation in non-denominational mega churches. And that light is beginning to be shine on that. I probably would guess in the next 10 years, we'll begin seeing more of that movement, either more illumination on that practice within within non-denominational mega churches and the practice therein, or the movement away of that for the members within to have more accountability and integrity that is operating within that, so that we don't have, so that that there is integrity within the Church of Jesus Christ.
How can that be enforced?
How can what be enforced?
That resolution or overture?
Well, first off,
Your NDA includes, you can't tell anybody that we made you sign an NDA.
well, I mean, I think that I can't get into the weeds of that. So, I mean, ultimately, there's lots of things that that are those, there's stuff like that. I mean, I think if I were the pastor who was like my colleague who was being forced out and said, we're going to sign this, and being threatened and pushed out that way, this is the protection of my colleague. To say, I have mechanisms now to protect me. This is what's protecting me. Now I have the church's backing to say that the church is going to, there's a mechanism now that the church can go and say, local congregation, you're acting out of accord with the book of order. You're asking for this person to operate within NDA, and that is out of alignment. And they can sanction, do all kinds of things. Or if the pastor was saying, I want to enter into this, that also protects the local congregation, saying, you know, we as a session, we can't, you know, that gives us cover to say that's not a place we can go. We're prohibited from doing that. And the accountability is, if it gets found out, then the judicial system within our denomination goes to the trial court within our in-house judicial system. So I don't want to spend half an hour on one, but I think it's a good one. What else you got? Colton and I, if no one brings it up, Colton, I should say a little for twice. Are we?
What is complacency?
What letter?
What it is, G?
All right. Oh, sweet Jesus.
I didn't know what Christian Zionism is.
A and G are
All right, let's take a look here. I gotta find it, okay, so give me a second. Oh, 05. Oh, baby. All right, this is letter G, or the letter G, bullet letter G, right? So this is committee INT, which should be international, right? International engagement, received items of business related to events, concerns, and opportunities in international context. And it includes items related to international peacekeeping. So here is, and its recommendations long, so I'm going to try and give you the highlights. The Presbyterian must become valid overtures to update, expand upon the resolution confronting Christian Zionism that was approved in 2004. We call upon the General Assembly to reject Christian Zionism in all its forms, acknowledge the expansion of Christian Zionism that is currently happening. That's part one. 2, to issue a study document that addresses the expansion of Christian Zionism since 2004. 3, to call upon the General Assembly through our World Mission Office to work with partners across the world who are also confronting the spread of Christian Zionism within their context, and convening spaces where experiences and resources can be shared through networks, etc. And 4, to call upon people of faith to advocate for a just peace with full appeal to full and equal human rights for all the people in Palestine and Israel. There's a ton of details within the recommendation itself about how it sees to carry that out. But notably, there is a statement that our denomination passed in 2004 called the Resolution on Rejecting Christian Zionism. And what they're asking for, one, essentially is an update, like how has that, it's been 20 years since, that was adopted. What's the update? What's the revised version of that statement 20 years later? Can we create a study guide to that so that that is current and more up to date with current resources? That would be helpful so that we could maybe do a class on it in our various contexts. And then also, how can we as a congregation be more intentional around the world in support of and intentionally engaged with our partners as they're encountering Christian Zionistic expressions in their context where they are.
So what is Christian Zionism?
Yeah,
That's
Right.
what
How are we gonna ask?
I got it right here, the Wikipedia page.
Yes.
Christian Zionism is a political and religious ideology that, in a Christian context, espouses the return of the Jewish people to the Holy Land. So to me, it sounds like it's just Christians that are supporting Zionism. It's not like a forceful return, like all you Jews have to go back to Israel, but it just supports the right of the Jewish people, Israel, to exist. It almost sounds like.
Well, it's a little bit more than that. It is that, and it's the wielding it is that, and the wielding danger of it is a whole lot more. So it is that, and there's a scary nature to it to me, which is we want to support our Jewish Zionism by the eradication of all persons of the Islamic faith out of the Holy Land. We want to purge the Holy Land out of all persons of the Islamic faith completely out of Israel. We want to assist all of the persons of the Jewish faith in completely rebuilding the temple, because we believe that in doing so will hasten the return of Jesus Christ. Fundamentally, we believe by doing that, it will not only hasten the return of Jesus Christ, but then it will prove to all of our siblings in the Jewish faith that that Jesus is Messiah, and therefore we will support all those efforts. And so, there's just this little seed in the back that of Christian Zionism, that of support for Jewish Zionism. There's this little seed in the back of acknowledgement of recognizing they're wrong in their faith. This condescending aspect of they're wrong in their faith, but we're going to help them.
So, Josh, how would a common PCUSA member, like anybody around this table, draw that depth of understanding from the term Christian Zionism when, if you Google it and it just says, it's Christians supporting the right of the Jewish state of Israel to exist and Jews to return to Israel?
Well, first point, that's why we should have our own study document and not trust Wikipedia or Google. That's the importance of having a good study document.
I would think there needs to probably be a different term than because
yes,
say what you mean, and you don't get that.
Well, I mean, you're also looking at a headline that of this overture, and I haven't on the history, our history of complicity in Christian Zionism and theology. I mean, they go into significant detail in their overture. I mean, there's scores of stuff written within the PCUSA. It's good stuff. And folks who are familiar, of course, with Christian Zionism within the PCUSA, there's stuff that's really good that's there. Even on the PCUSA website, just click the link and go to it. You can find this stuff, and it's really good and unpacks it. I just wouldn't trust Wikipedia. I wouldn't trust Google. And you will get the elementary level. I mean, I would say personally, it's, I was working with my son this weekend on Civil War, and I get the results of what I would expect. I get middle school level of results for what I'm expecting him to get and what he needs for his middle school assignments. That's what I'm expecting for him to find. What he needs is the level to which I expect out of those who just type in Christian Zionism. And that's not fair to the depth of the way here.
So assume then that the one right below it about Israeli apartheid.
Same.
It goes into the similar depth in the resolution.
Well, let me turn the page. Pages. Well, that's loaded, isn't it? You think?
Both of those, Christian Zionism and Israeli apartheid.
So the word Zionism, the word Christian Zionism has a, I would say, I don't know. The word Christian Zionism has a certain kind of theological embeddedness in our vernacular that is understood and appropriatedness to that part of the conversation. Using apartheid with Israelis, you know, that you are reappropriating South African apartheid using that with Israeli apartheid. So in this headline, there is inherent within the name of that title is reappropriating the term apartheid, and you're making a statement in the headline. Different from Christian Zionism, which there's a, so if you were saying educational resources for seeking ways to end South African apartheid, there would be a common usage vernacular there, like saying Christian Zionism. So here you have a title that has a particular political bent within it, or a theological bent and an intent within the title itself, a purpose within it. So not saying that I agree or disagree, it's just it has a statement within it alone, which before I even read anything about it, I was like, okay. Then the very next thing that I read was the presbytery from which it came. Sponsoring Presbytery, San Francisco Presbytery. And every year when our General Assembly meets, and no different from this year, if you just wanted to count the number of overtures that come from San Francisco Presbytery, almost every time they're the highest volume of presbyteries to submit overtures. Just as on the East Coast, there's another presbytery that is the highest number of presbyteries on the East Coast, that the highest volume of overtures from the East Coast. And so that's, you know, kind of swing this other way on the scale of things. So there's a balance, but anywho, somebody else said something else. Let's move on. Hey, what's that? Hey, really? You wanted to talk about A? What did you want to talk about? A? Really? You want to read that A out loud? Roxanne?
I'm supporting the amendment to the U.S. Constitution to abolish the exceptions in the 13th Amendment that permits those who are convicted of a crime to be enslaved.
So, oh, wow, well, it's time to pray. Here is the recommendation. This is under the committee of the Domestic Engagement Committee. Domestic Engagement Committee is responsible for receives items of business related to events, concerns, and opportunities in domestic context, includes items related to gun violence, political rhetoric, and economic concerns. The Presbytery of Northeast New Jersey respectfully overtures. I keep looking at Cole because he and I have talked about this. The Presbytery of Northeast New Jersey respectfully overtures the 226th General Assembly to do the following. 1. encourage the ministries and agencies of the Peace USA to be aware of the presence of modern slavery and human trafficking throughout the world and in the United States. 2, encourage the ratification of an amendment to the United States Constitution to abolish the exception clause in the 13th Amendment that allows any person convicted of a crime to be enslaved. 3, encourage the United States House of Representatives to pass a House Joint Resolution 72 and the United States Senate to pass Senate Joint Resolution 33, steps that are required before a proposed amendment can be submitted to the states for ratification. 4, direct the Office of Public Witness to provide copies of this overture and convey the General Assembly's concerns regarding the exception clause in the 13th Amendment to those members of the United States Senate and the U.S. House of Representatives and their staff as deemed appropriate. That's what this overture is. I don't know that I know what that is.
I wasn't aware that there's a clause like that in the 13th Amendment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in the 13th Amendment, it says no more slavery unless. But my question is, I don't disagree that there is still human slavery in the world. I don't think it's legal. I don't know that we do enslave people who have been convicted of it, specifically who have been convicted.
But it also says forced labor.
But that's kind of my question is, but we do take prisoners and require them to do forced labor.
Yes.
And I believe that you as a person in agriculture, for example, can pay the prison system to have prisoners come and do that. I don't know if that's still true.
Well, that's what I was saying, is that it's the prison farm.
Right, exactly. So that seems like it would be the impact of this, because I think other kinds of slavery for people not in prison are totally and completely illegal here and everywhere else, and this wouldn't really help with it. So the part 1 about human trafficking and that sort of thing doesn't seem like it would be helped by this amendment. It seems a little disingenuous in that if what you're trying to do is stop prison farms and similar, then you should say. Not that that's a bad idea, but you should say by amending this, by fixing the Constitution. And then the other 2 were just procedural. This is what has to happen in order to have a constitutional amendment in the United States. This is what we should.
Realizing the one that I thought was the juiciest, I inadvertently left
Oh,
I know. That was the one I thought was the juiciest. I thought I included it. I was doing such good work, you know. That is a good one though. And I think with regard to the criminal justice system, I think that one's important. Oh wait, I didn't include
There
it.
were several.
Oh no, I didn't include it. I did include it.
Which one?
All right, I got 2 more to pull out for you. This one is letter D. See letter D?
I had no
Does
idea.
that not look just,
That
does
was
that
one
just
I
look
didn't know what
so
it
boring?
Yeah,
Doesn't that just look so boring? You get bored. That one's the General Assembly Entity Coordination. Right? GAEC-26 on realigning self-development of people with its historical purpose. Received all items related to the operation and function of assembly entities, including amendments on organization permissions, reports. Okay, Rod, does that not seem like it would be boring? Like that could get really.
like what does that even?
You know what this is?
I don't. Yeah.
It probably involves a lot of money being moved somewhere.
Is it
Would you
the
like to
kind
hear
of changing history type of stuff?
Would you like to hear this one?
Yeah,
Call for it.
let's hear it.
Would you like?
Yes.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Gosh.
This is the one. On realigning self-development of people with its historical purpose. The Pacific Presbytery overtures the 226th General Assembly to realign self-development of people with its historical purpose, emphasizing self-determination for the African American community and the original focus of addressing the residual impact of slavery and oppression by 1, requiring that the self-development of people abides by the Articles of Agreement of 1983, reaffirming PCUSA's commitment to equity and justice, and 2, by directing the self-development of people to allocate an initial $5 million to put in place infrastructure and resourcing, followed by a recurring $1 million investment annually for 25 years to aid African American congregations in enhancing their community involvement, advocacy, and witness for Jesus Christ's love and justice. Part of that, which is fascinating, so that's $25 million over 25 years. 30, right? It's 30 over, it's 30, it's 5 initially, it's 25 over it's 30 over 25. And what's fascinating about that, because some would, on this one, some are going to never read this. Some are going to, the first paragraph of this, that this is in alignment with our core value to dismantle structural racism and witness the gospel of Jesus Christ, et cetera, et cetera. And some are going to completely not have this hit their radar because it is buried within what is considered to be a rather really boring committee. And some are really going to hit the radar on this one because they're going to see this as reparations. And yes, but they're not going to see that because of the committee in which it hits. And when it comes to the floor, it's not going to give as much excitement and attention because it's not under some of the other committees. And so I could, it's just not going to get, it probably won't because of where it is. And it's in the right, I'm not advocating that it's somewhere else. There is another overture as well that had, and I don't know if it's yet got the concurrence of another one, and it is similar in vein with regard to a petition to the self-development of people to have all predominantly white congregations to give 25% of its annual budget to local African-American congregations beginning in 2025 going forward as reparations.
25% of the annual budget or of its
25% is annual budget
to the Presbyterian.
Its annual budget. And I didn't find it because I have not yet seen. That was the one I was on the hook for. We did talk about that one at the Commission on Ministry a couple of weeks ago. And that would also include the presbyteries as well, and the presbytery budgets as well. So it would be the denominational budget, the presbytery's budget, the synods budget, and each local church's budget as an overture as well. And that would essentially close most of the churches of the denomination at that point. But this one will certainly garner definitely some conversation. And what's fascinating about this is when I need to go back and read the history is I feel like this is a call to accountability to do the very thing they said they were going to do, but they never did. And PCUSA has a history of saying, this is the thing we're gonna do. We say we're gonna do it and then we don't do it. And we have to do overtures to do the same, to do the thing we said that we're gonna do, and then we don't do it.
So what is the SVOP? That sounds,
It's
because when
a-
I read that, I thought, okay, this is a fund of money. That's already
It's an
a thing that's
agency.
happening
It's an agency within the,
within
I believe,
PCUSA.
the Presbyterian Mission Agency.
Okay,
Right.
and so we're just trying to say, take some of that money that we're already spending for whatever it is that we spend that for.
In order to
And
allocate that 30,
earmark it
well,
for,
in order to allocate that 30 million for this purpose, that 30 million will be less of these programs.
sure. But is there $20 million a year that's being spent? How much is being spent every year by SDOP?
And
That's not being spent on African American communities, but on whatever, okay.
yeah,
That was kind of
they
my
will,
question, is what's the-
pull from monies that you're spending in these other areas to accomplish this.
There we go.
Yeah,
So it's not an additional on top of, no,
it won't be, hey,
here's another million.
here's another.
It's gonna
It'll
be,
be pulled from that to pay for this.
okay, and so my other question is their budget already more than $5 million a year? Cause that was my other question is, okay, do they already have this money and it's just a matter of them allocating it differently or? do they
Yeah, I
not
think, I
already
mean,
have-
it's kind of like the local church, right? So, we end up with, here's your pot of money. And then we as a session figure out, how do we want to split the kitty?
Yeah.
And I'm talking about the money, not the end. Moving on. This has been thrilling. The faculty member who Colton is meeting with tomorrow, he's like a demigod when it comes to polity, to the governance structure of all of this stuff. And so Colton is going to be, wowed. His name is Paul Hooker, and he's about as dry and boring and knowledgeable and as you could ever imagine. The greatest at this, which is probably why his hobby is poetry, and he's a renowned poet, which is probably why his outlet is poetry, because he's so good and knowledgeable at all this boring, wonky, nerdy stuff. So the fact that, and he retired from the seminary a few years ago, so the fact that Colton gets to sit at his foot tomorrow is a real gift. And I look forward to hearing what he gets to share with you. And I will, during the week when all this is happening, will be with my popcorn watching the live stream. If you would like to know, I'm also the one when the Methodists meet live stream for a week. I'm also the one watching their conference.
So you see the love train.
I didn't watch it last week, but in all the years previous, I've always watched all of theirs. Look, York and enough of that dumb stuff. We bring this to a close. Any questions, thoughts, comments, anything else y'all want to mention before we bring it all?
Is there someone from our Hope Church, you or someone that actually gets to vote on any of this?
No. What I don't have, none of us will know, at the conclusion of the meeting, there may be some things that, if there are any changes to the Book of Order, Part 2 of our Constitution, nothing to Part 1 of the Book of Confessions is going to be recommended this go around. There will likely be changes to, that's my favorite one. I'm going to end on this one. There will likely be recommendations to change Part 2 of our Constitution, Book of Order. That will be sent to all of the presbyteries between now and next April. All of the presbyteries will get an opportunity to ratify those via their standing presbytery meetings. And elders like Caitlin, who's coming on to be an elder, will get a chance to attend those presbytery meetings and cast their vote for those. If those are ratified by, let's say, April 15th, then that new book will be printed June 1st of next summer. And then we'll have a new part 2 of our institution. But other than that, no, this summer, no one from Hope will be involved in our General Assembly. The last one I did want to mention is the ordination. It's letter J. And if they do change that, then Colton may be one of the first persons I know who would get ordained under the new wording that would be proposed under J. And I personally would be all about it. If you've been ordained, let's see, Mercy, have you been ordained, Diane, before as an elder or deacon? Gloria has some mercy. Gloria, Diana as an elder or deacon, not yet. Yes, she has. Yes, you have. Yes, you have. If you've already been ordained as elder or deacon or as a pastor, one of the vows we took is, will you serve the people with energy, intelligence, imagination, and love? I love that vow. I love it. I love it because energy is your physical self, right? Will you serve with energy, not just be lethargic, don't just be a bump on the log, right? You gotta get your juices flowing, right? You gotta have your physical self. Will you have that energy? I love that. Kind of energy, intelligence, and imagination. Like that's both sides. Will you use both sides of your brain, the intelligence side and the imagination side? I love that. Love that idea. Will you're vowing to use both sides of your brain and love. When you use your heart, I love all of that. And the recommendation here, which I just, you know what it is, right?
I do know this one.
Go for it.
I will get to add the word wisdom.
The recommendation is add the word wisdom. Will you seek to serve the people with wisdom, energy, intelligence, imagination, and love? And I just find that to be such a brilliant addition to that. Will you serve with wisdom? Because energy, intelligence, imagination, love, all of that isn't wisdom. Wisdom is something different. And I love adding this idea. What a great recommendation to add wisdom. And I do hope that the General Assembly will add that. And I hope that there will be an opportunity inherent in that for us to recommit to that vow, for those of us who have already taken it. I think that's a beautiful thing to add, and what a great way for us to close. So we're on.
Why would it be to do it?
Yes. Next week is Madre's Dia de la Madre, Mother's Day. And so there is no Christian Ed after worship. 2 weeks is a called congregation meeting. It's after worship in the sanctuary, so make plans to be there. And then we won't be back together again until June 2nd. So I have your emails. I do ask folks to, as you see on there, to register. I will send you emails anyway, but I do like you to register so I don't keep hounding people who don't want to be hounded. What?
To register.
Just once.
Oh,
Just register once for the summer, or each time we offer a new class, I like for you to register. So I don't hound the people who don't want to be hounded. But I won't actually see anybody till the 2nd and in this space, and then off we go. Colt was going to be gone for the summer with his internship up in Temple, Texas. And we will be welcoming one of our interns. Her name is Kate Roberts. And she'll be my partner leading this class for the summer as well. And
Kate's great. No, we're gonna like Kate. She's fun.
Yeah.
The next time you see me, fingers crossed, I will be an inquirer for ordination. On May 10th, I jumped through the first 2.
Friday.
Yeah, this Friday. So right in time for finals. Great planning on CPS. Yeah, so hopefully that goes well. Pray for me, for us. But
Well, let's pray now.
let us in the class. Heavenly Father, Creator, Redeemer, Sustainer, we thank you for getting into the weeds of our denomination and kind of putting our money where our mouth is. How does this work in the world? What does this actually look like for us? I pray that in meetings like these assemblies, that your truth and love is paramount, not grasping for power, grasping for money, grasping for love in a sacrificial way. Be with us as we transition into the summer, as a church and our families, any travel that's going on, Lord, let your presence be known in a beautiful way. For Christ's name, amen.
Amen.
Yeah, you went wrong, brother.
I'm going to you. I'm stop with my stuff. So. I'm going to my